When you start exploring Raleigh, North Carolina, you'll find that we have a lot of suburbs. So let's break down what you can expect as you head in each cardinal direction, north, south, east, and west from downtown Raleigh. My name is Matt Martin, and I'm a Raleigh-based realtor. I've helped tons of clients relocate to the Triangle region, and if you're looking to do the same, I'd love to help you too. And if you want to see more content like this, please be sure to hit like, comment, and subscribe right down below. So heading just 15 to 20 minutes in any direction from downtown Raleigh, North Carolina can make you feel like you're in completely different states sometimes. Here's a quick summary, then we'll dive into the details. West of Raleigh is where you'll find the most established communities and conveniences, but it comes at a price. North of Raleigh is lots of trees and a decent amount of suburban development with more reasonable prices. And south and east of Raleigh are where you'll find a mix of rural and suburban with tons of new communities popping up. I'll explain why in a bit, and the most affordable housing options. Let's kick things off to the west of Raleigh, where you'll find the most development in established communities like Cary, Morrisville, and Apex. This area is so developed because of its proximity to RDU Airport and the Research Triangle Park, or RTP, which brought tons of new well-paying jobs to the region from the likes of IBM in the mid-60s, SAS in the 70s, and Epic Games in the 90s. As RTP became a hub for tech, employees and executives alike sought out convenient housing options in neighborhoods that had it all. Parks, shopping centers, places of worship, restaurants, which led to the explosion of planned unit developments, or PUDs. In fact, the first PUD in North Carolina was built in Cary, and over 20 such neighborhoods were developed there in the 80s and 90s. But that boom hasn't stopped. A quick drive through Cary and neighboring Morrisville today will greet you with cranes, new shopping centers, and tons of multi-use developments under construction all over. This is especially true as you head a little south and west into areas like Apex and West Cary, where previously undeveloped land is now being gobbled up and transformed. This is because a small little company known as Apple announced a couple years back that it's going to be building a massive new campus in that area, which has fueled tons of new construction. Because of the history of development in these communities west of Raleigh, there's been plenty of time to build up all the conveniences you'd expect. Cary has one of the region's few Wegmans, Apex is home to Costco, Morrisville is home to RDU Airport. The area is also home to some of the most impressive segments of our famous Greenway system, whose 160 plus miles of mostly paved trails cut through the entire Triangle region. It has some of the best schools in the Triangle. It has great parks, and downtown Cary is my favorite downtown in the region. But that all comes at a cost, and these communities west of Raleigh carry some of the highest housing prices in the region. Morrisville's median single-family home price is just shy of $600,000, while Apex and Cary are both rapidly approaching $700,000. This is compared to about $465,000 in Raleigh and $400,000 for our entire MLS region, which, to be fair, is quite expansive. Next, let's head north, where you'll find quite a bit of established development alongside some new communities popping up. North of Raleigh includes communities like the very aptly named North Raleigh, Rolesville, and the more well-known Wake Forest. While there's a mix of topography and landscape here, North Raleigh tends to be really lush and green, which I attribute to its proximity to Falls Lake. When you head north of Raleigh, you almost have the story of two separate waves of development that have more recently started to converge. The first are the communities immediately to the north of Raleigh, which really started to boom in the 1970s as the population began to spread outward from downtown. But that spread only reached so far. Separately, you had the growth of Wake Forest, mainly attributed to Wake Forest College and the subsequent railway that was brought to the region for easier access to the college. But after the college was relocated to Winston-Salem in the 1950s, Wake Forest growth slowed, only picking back up in the 90s as the region overall started its boom. So what we're seeing today are the northern boundaries of North Raleigh and the southern boundaries of Wake Forest expanding out and meeting in the middle, bringing new developments to the areas in between, like Rollsville. In fact, Rollsville was found to be the fastest growing municipality in the entire state back in 2020, with growth of 150% in the previous decade. The appeal of the areas north of Raleigh is its access to nature at lower prices than you can find in those areas to the west that I just mentioned. Both Wake Forest's and Rollsville's median single-family home prices hover around $560,000 to $575,000. The main downside of the communities north of Raleigh, especially Wake Forest, is traffic. Because the area didn't really grow in conjunction with Raleigh, there are only a few major routes that take you between Raleigh and Wake Forest, meaning traffic can get quite congested during peak hours. And while you'll find most of the major conveniences you want, including a Wake Forest Wegmans, can you tell I love Wegmans? You'll have to commute to Raleigh if you want Costco or more diverse food options. All right, next let's head to the east of Raleigh, where you'll find communities like Knightdale, Wendell, and Zebulon. These areas of town are less developed, mainly due to the fact that they weren't historically as conveniently accessible to the airport or RTP. So here you'll find more open space, including farmland. However, things changed for this area significantly back in the late 1990s and early 2000s with the completion of the first leg of I-540, which we more commonly refer to as the Outer Beltline. This segment of the Beltline connected Knightdale to the airport, RTP, and further west into Cary and Holly Springs, significantly reducing travel times for residents there. And since then, we've seen a lot of new development popping up across Knightdale, but even more so in its neighbor to the east, Wendell. This is mainly due to the development of Wendell Falls, which is a one-stop shop community that will eventually feature 3,000 to 4,000 homes, multiple restaurants, miles of trails, its own medical facilities, shopping, and more. Wendell Falls is an awesome option for those looking to have easy access to Raleigh at a fraction of the price, and historic downtown Wendell is really cute. If you head a little further east, you'll hit Zebulon, which has seen massive growth in the past few years, though it's still really small, with a population hovering around just 10,000. Because these communities have not had the history of growth you'll find to the west and north of Raleigh, it also means you won't find as much in the way of shopping and dining. You'll still have some of your big box stores like Lowe's and Best Buy, but you'll see a lot more fast food chains here, and just to keep things consistent, no Wegmans or Costco. You will also find much more affordable housing in these parts. In fact, in my recent video about the most affordable neighborhoods in Raleigh, here, all three communities made the cut, with median home prices in the lower 400s for Wendell and Knightdale, and just $330,000 for Zebulon. So this is definitely a great part of town to check out if you're looking for more housing bang for your buck and easy access to Raleigh, but you're okay traveling some for more variety in shopping and dining. And finally, let's head south of Raleigh. This is the part of town that's experienced the most extensive growth, and that's mainly driven by the expansion of I-540, that outer belt line I mentioned earlier. This newest leg is expected to open this year, 2024, and will massively improve access for residents of communities like Fuquay-Varina, Garner, and Clayton. It helps that these parts of town have tons of open land, and while a lot of it is wooded, many areas south of Raleigh have a much more rural and farmland feel than what you'd find up north. So it's the perfect vector for lots of new development, and it's incredible to watch what's been happening across these communities in the last few years alone, with new residential and commercial spaces popping up literally every day. No, there isn't a Wegmans yet, but Garner just got its own Costco, so you know that means things are blowing up. You'll also find more affordable housing options here, but that really depends on which part you're looking at. And things get more expensive as you move from the east to the west. The furthest south and east community is Clayton, which has a median single family home price of just $350,000, followed by Garner at $395,000, then Fuquay-Varina at around $450,000. Okay, there's one community that I didn't mention because it's kind of an outlier, and that's Holly Springs. While it's technically south of Raleigh, it doesn't follow the trends of the other southern communities, and that's because of its accessibility. You see, the current leg of I-540 ends in Holly Springs, which means residents there already have that easy access to RTP and RDU that the other southern communities don't yet have. So median single family home prices here are significantly higher at $645,000, rivaling neighboring Apex. Holly Springs also has more development, including great parks and schools, and more coming all the time. I feel like Holly Springs is a bellwether for what's to come in many of the other southern communities once the I-540 expansion opens up later this year. So I hope that gives you a good overview of the geography of Raleigh, North Carolina, and what you can expect to find as you head in each cardinal direction from its downtown. If you'd like to explore Raleigh or the rest of the Triangle region in North Carolina, I'd love to be your guide. You can call, text, or email. All my contact information is included below.